Hi, I'm Derek Snavely, and I'm an undergraduate student here at ASU studying environmental engineering. Over the course of our semester, we covered a lot of interesting sustainable topics. The one that stood out to me the most was the investigation we did on alternative fueled vehicles, also called green alternatives. Well, while we were doing that project, we concentrated on the cost effectiveness and compared them by price. Well, while doing this, a lot of the research that I found showed that these environmentally friendly options weren't so friendly. So, in my project, I decided that I would look into the environmental aspects of these greener, friendlier alternative cars and what the trade offs really are. The standard fuel used in these vehicles, all three of them, still come from fossil fuels: electricity from the power plants, petroleum from oil, gasoline, and natural gas from fracking. So, what are the environmental impacts of these environmentally friendly alternatives to conventional automobiles? Well, let's take a look. We'll start with gasoline. Our gasoline here in the United States comes from many different places. Some of these countries are war-stricken, and this explains why fuel prices can fluctuate so much over the course of a year. Gasoline obviously has an effect on the environment. These combustion engines have been around for a long time. The hybrid car uses the combustion engine as well as a battery system. So let's look at petroleum products. Petroleum products such as oil and gas have emissions that affect our environment in several ways. Cars emit greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, which contributes to global warming. Some air pollutants and particulate matter from the cars can be deposited on the soil and the surface of waters where they can enter our food chain. These substances can have very negative effects on both plants and animals. The nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxides are major contributors to acid rain, which changes the pH in our waterways as well as our soils and can harm organisms that rely on these resources, such as us. There's also an integrated battery system in the hybrid. The biggest problem with these battery systems is the harmful chemicals contained inside the batteries. Once these batteries are no longer holding a charge, they simply fill up our dumps and landfills with these harmful chemicals. There is good news. A facility in Ohio is being built in order to recycle these batteries, which is a good start. Let's move on to electricity. America's electricity comes from many different power plants: petroleum power plants, coal power plants, natural gas power plants, nuclear, as well as hydroelectric and solar. Since we just covered petroleum, let's move on to coal. Coal can pollute our air just as bad as anything else. Burning coal causes smog, soot, acid rain, global warming, and toxic air emissions. The waste that it generates, such as ash, sludge, toxic chemicals, and the waste heat that it creates, also affects our environment and causes problems. The fuel comes from destroying mountains and polluting the land and water around these extraction places. The plants also use billions of gallons of cooling water, which harms wildlife. So now that we've covered petroleum, coal, let's move on to natural gas. Natural gas is retrieved from deep inside the earth where they drill down into the shale, the hard minerals way down below our water table. And they use a technique called fracking, where they inject a fluid inside of their drilling hole that causes it to fracture. Here's the details on fracking. It takes 1 to 8 million gallons of water to complete each fracturing job. And it also takes 40,000 gallons of chemicals per fracture. The fracking fluid can contain up to 600 chemicals for the fracking, including known carcinogens and toxics such as lead, uranium, mercury, radium, which is radioactive, hydrochloric acid, formaldehyde, just to name a few. During this process, methane gas and toxic chemicals leach out from the system and contaminate nearby drinking water, the groundwater. The methane concentrations are 17 times higher in drinking wells near fracturing sites than in normal wells. As well as 30 to 50% of the fracking fluid is never recovered. The rest of the toxic fluid is left in the ground and is not biodegradable. This is pretty scary stuff because the regulations right now on fracking are very, very easy on the natural gas companies, which is causing a lot of environmental issues. Let's find out what our good friend David Letterman has to say on this topic.
They're poisoning our drinking water and
what? You no longer have to comply with EPA standards for stuff you put into the water. So the greedy oil and gas company said, great, let's go crazy. And then some states are saying, no, we have a transparency law. So the oil and gas companies say, okay, we'll tell you everything but 2% of what we're putting into your tap water. And that's supposed to make us feel better.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're screwed. I've seen people set fire to their tap water.
Yes,
Can I get you a nice, you want some ice water? Kaboom! I've seen people set fire to their toilets.
That
was a different thing. That was in college. I don't think they still do that.
Well, you heard it from David Letterman. He's going to switch to drinking vodka instead of water. But as much as I agree with David Letterman, I don't think he's completely right. If we begin to locate fuels outside the traditional resources such as fossil fuels, we're going to be moving forward in a very responsible way. And luckily, as consumers, our demand fuels the market, and car companies are beginning to listen. As technology grows and we become more environmentally friendly, we're going to see a lot more cars such as this one. This car is the CES from Toyota that runs off of a hydrogen cell. This is a new energy technology, and I believe this kind of innovations will open doors for more alternative energies. It is simple science such as this that will propel us into a sustainable, more greener way of transporting ourselves. So as we've seen, these greener alternatives, such as natural gas, electricity, and hybrids, are really not that much more environmentally friendly than using gasoline alone. And in some cases, such as fracking, we have the oil companies destroying drinking water and leaving toxic chemicals and sludge behind in their wake. This is not sustainable,
It's
and it should be outraged. I mean, it's not acceptable at all. So, as I wrap up this presentation, still the best way to remove your environmental footprint from the transportation commute is by simply pedaling to your destination. That's the conclusion. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.